Hello and welcome to the second channel for Tales from the Trip. I'm your host, the Trip Keeper, and on today's video, we are going to be ranking the fucking Sopranos seasons, the best show in the whole entire world ever. It is. I mean, if you haven't seen it before even watching this, I don't know if I'll get into spoilers or not. I probably will say something. So if you haven't watched it and you want to know what the show is like, do not watch this video. But if you have seen it or you don't even give a fuck, this is good for you. But if you guys have seen the show and you know how good it is, then you really know how good it is. I mean, it is it's the best thing you could ever put on your television. I've seen it 4 times since June of 2022 when I first watched it, and I was just like, how have I not seen this before? I remember when I first put it on, it was because I saw a short on YouTube of Tony beating up Coco in the last couple episodes of the whole show because he sexually harassed his daughter. But you that that made me want to watch it, and like that the show is just so much more different than like that. But like if that the mob parts of the show do make it really good, but that's not what the show is about really. I mean, yes, it's about the mafia, but it's like it doesn't revolve around that. There's so much other shit that's involved. It all combines together and just makes something great. Definitely changed television forever. James Gandolfini, I mean, the probably the best performance ever for anything in my opinion. I mean, I can't even think of something else that just has is so fucking incredible. It's amazing what he did. He's so good in it that every time I see him in something else, I just picture him as Tony Soprano. That's how good he was as Tony Soprano. Like he was the show. There was nothing without him in that show. Like every episode was just him. Now there were scenes without him, of course, but most of the time it was just him, and I didn't mind. It was just every time he was on screen, all the fuck ups he did, all the some of the good things he did. He definitely wasn't the worst person on earth, but he definitely was pretty terrible. And I hate the people that say Sopranos fans don't want to admit that Tony Soprano was evil. Yeah, we do. We fucking admit that. You could tell right from the beginning that he's not a good person. I don't know why people say that shit is the dumbest shit. If you watch the show, you know he's an evil person, and if you don't think that, well then you're stupid. But yeah, he was very evil. But since we followed him in the show, he had to be the protagonist. He was like the evil, the anti, he was the protagonist and antagonist. He was the anti-protagonist, basically. Anti-hero that was like, first television's anti-hero. And yeah, so much. Drinking Miller High Life, some of my third one. I'm not going to drink anymore after that. I'm just going to stop after that. I bought some pizza in the refrigerated section of this convenience store. It looked pretty good, so I'm going to heat it up after this. But yeah. So we only have 2 tiers here. Just fucking incredible, like the best, and great. Because there's not one season of this show that's bad or even decent. Every season is just amazing. So I couldn't make a third tier, like even where it's just good. Like none of them are just good. It's great. I hope if you haven't seen it and you're this far into the video, just go watch it. I'm telling you, it will change your life. It will change your fucking life how good this show is. All right, let's just get started here. Season 1 of The Sopranos, we're going to put it in great. Now, it definitely introduces you to the show, all right? But you could tell how as the show goes on, how much better the show gets. But the beginning part, it needs to be there, all right? And it's a great stepping stone for what's to come. And it's the only season that's really just mostly happy. I mean, yes, there's the part where the whole thing revolves around Tony getting killed by, or trying to get killed by Uncle June and Livia, his mother. But other than that, like, it's just it's just like the most mob show out of the whole season. Like this season is the one that's like the most normal kind of show. It doesn't lead into anything else until season 2 on. But that's what I kind of like about it. That's what I love about it. You know, I don't like these seasons. I love them, but I can't put it in just fucking incredible because there are a couple seasons in here that are, and it's just you can't take that away from it. But season 1, just the storylines and how much the gravity of situations happen. It's not as severe as later seasons, and just the way it was shot, directed, written, you know, everything, acted still pretty good. Acting is all, I mean, acting and writing is good throughout the whole show, but in this season there's, you know, they're getting their footing there. It wasn't supposed to be great, you know. It was, I mean, no, it was great, that's what I mean, but it's not to the point where it's like, oh my god, this is the best show ever. You don't get to that point with just one season, you know. And but they did a good job with it. I loved all the characters. You know, Mikey Palmise, shout out to him for dying. That if you guys didn't notice, go look to his death scene. There is a stunt double. If you pause it, I remember that's the first time I noticed that. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know which frame you pause it on, but it's one of them. I remember stopping and taking a picture of it. But yeah, there's a stunt double for that. Chris is just very, you know, he just wants to be made, and he's why is my life not continuing onto this mafia path like I wanted to. But he wouldn't even have got that far without Tony. And Tony, you know, he was just starting out, and he was the thinnest he was in the whole entire show. So yeah, but there's a lot of problems, you know. Rats, you know, Jimmy Altieri, his death. That was one of the scariest scenes in the whole show. I mean, I don't know if it was scary, but it was disturbing in a way, just because like the realization that he's gonna die because Silvio's behind him. That shit was scary. And then a big pussy left. He fled to wherever the fuck he went. Who knows if he went to Puerto Rico or if he just went, I don't know, a state over or something. I don't even know where he could have went, but if he did go there, I mean, I guess that would be a safe spot. But and then he comes back for season 2. But all right, let's get to season 2. Season 2 is just fucking incredible. I mean, you introduce one of the best side characters ever and kill him off a couple episodes later. Richie Aprile. I mean, that is the definition of a mobster right there. He was not afraid of anybody. He wasn't scared of anything, and he was hated by lots. He was just, I mean, the addition of him made this season so much better. It was good already until he got added in, and then it was like, wow, he adds so much. You just from the start, from the beginning, you know he's going to start some trouble. Just like the Cat Williams interview. Just from the start, he was just like, all right, we're going to fucking call out all these people. But he got dropped off by Adriana Lacerva, Chris's girlfriend, and he went straight to Beansy and beat him up with a coffee pot and then ran him over. I think either the same episode or the next episode. And yeah, he started dating Janice, and then they got engaged, and then out of the fucking blue, they fucking kill him. And they were planning to, Tony and Silvio planned to kill him, but Janice did it for him because she got punched, and I don't know, she's fucking just as crazy as Tony is. And a lot of people don't like Janice's character. Like, I'm sure they like the acting of her, but they don't like her as a person. But for me, I don't know. I kind of like watching. I like what she does. She in the first season 2 and 3, she's definitely like more begging. She's a beggar and shit, and she's like that the whole show. But the first 2 seasons, she was like really into that part of it. But as season 4 comes around, 5, 6, 6B, you know, she becomes a different character. But even season 3, she starts to become that other character. But season 2, it's just like she's just munches off of her brother, and it's kind of annoying at that point. But after that, she becomes a really good character. But I could see why if she was like that the whole series, which there's a part of that still alive in every single season. But if it was just like that, strictly like season 2, yeah, I could see why you would hate her. But her brother Tony is like the worst character on the show. If you guys don't see that, then that's I don't know how. But she's just as bad as him. You know, she's I wouldn't say she's as bad because she's definitely, you know, I mean, she's killed people. For sure, she killed Richie. Oh my God, the season 2. I think I don't know if it's not the last episode, but it's where they kill Richie. Janice kills Richie, and one of the funniest lines in the whole show happens. It's Janice is like, "So what did you do with him?" And then Tony's like, "We buried him on a hill overlooking a little river with pine cones all around." Oh my God, that is top 5 funniest scenes in the whole show. That is just every time that part comes on when I rewatch it, I replay that shit over and over. It is just so funny. And because Janice is like so invested, she's like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "No, what the fuck are you talking about?" What do you care? Oh, that was a good time. Beer. But yeah, Tony, he's still, I mean, he's gaining a little weight in the season, but he's not to the big boy he is later on. He's just a big little blah, 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 blah. Jesus fucking Christ. I love the storyline of Davey Scatino, how his life, the highest point of his life in the show is when he wins his first hand. He gets a flush, and then after that, it's just like, fuck you, Davey Scatino. You're going down, you're going bankrupt, and you're going to get your life ruined. It's a sad storyline, but he brought it on himself. I know people like to blame Tony for bringing him in, but Tony told him twice. Davey came up to him twice and said, "Listen, I want to get in your executive card game." And Tony's like, "No, it's not for you, Davey." And he's like, he told him, he held his shoulders like, "Davey, do not join this." So you would think after that, like even as a gambling addict, you're like, all right, fuck it. I'll just go to a casino or do whatever, you know, even go to Vegas maybe. But he shows up at the executive card game at the hotel, and he gets in because he showed up, and it's like, you're not going to stop him from going in. So what is Tony going to do? He's like, well, fuck it, might as well let him in. The worst that could happen is that I can make him go bankrupt, and that's what happened. But it's not like Tony did not warn him. Like, Tony wouldn't have, if Davey Scatino said, "No, I'll just go do something else," Tony would not have been like, "All right, I'm going to force you to come in here." He would not have done that. So that was strictly Davey Scatino's fault. But it was Tony's fault too, just for doing what he did to him, even though he knew him and he grew up with him. It was evil for what he did, but I don't feel that much sympathy for him, Davey, to that happened to him. That's just my opinions, because you put yourself in that situation. As bad as Tony is, it wasn't strictly his fault for that. And then you got, oh my God, the worst characters on the show: Matthew Bevilacqua and Sean Gismonti. Good acting in the show. It's just terrible. I hated them so much, and I'm glad they fucking got killed. They kill Chris, or they try to kill Chris, and there's a whole episode and a half, or even 2 episodes, just going around Chris in the hospital, and the scene where Chris tells Paulie and Tony that they saw the people they killed in hell, like Mikey Palmise and Emil Kolar, and said to give him a warning about 3 o'clock. And Paulie, he doesn't believe it at first. He's like, he's like, "Oh, well, hell is hot. That's not been disputed by anybody." Excuse me. But then Paulie starts getting really paranoid about everything. And he starts having dreams and shit. He starts waking up and staring at his clock just to make sure it's 3 o'clock and he's not dead yet. And then he goes to one of the funniest scenes in the whole show. This is why season 2 is goated, because there's just so much funny shit in the whole thing. Now, Sopranos season 1 is amazing too with funniness. Like Junior Soprano, I forgot to mention him before. For that season, there's so much funny one-liners in that show. "We're not making a Western here," in that season. So yeah, that was another good part about it, is that it was funny. But season two, when what I was just saying before about Paulie, he went to a psychic, and the psychic ends up finding out about a murder that Paulie did. But I'm not sure if he knew it was, he like knew a guy named Sonny, and he said it to him, and Paulie's like threatening him. He's like, "What the fuck do you know? Who the fuck told you?" And then the psychic's like, "I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." And then Paulie's like, "You know what this is? This is black magic, sick shit, satanic black magic," or whatever the fuck he said. And then he throws the chair. He's like, "Fucking queers," for no reason. Like, why would he say that? That shit had me dying for like 10 minutes after watching that. That shit was so fucking funny. Why would he say fucking queers after that? Like, there's so much shit you could have said, but he chose to say that. I just thought that was hilarious. If I keep on going about this season, I'll never finish this video, but I can go on forever. That just shows you how good the season is. It's just all the characters that are in it, the storylines, the surprises, with Richie Aprile getting shot by Janice. That was just insanity. All right, season 3. We're going to have to put it in just fucking incredible. This is another great season, and this is going to be in order from best to not best, because I can't say worst for Sopranos. That worst and Sopranos do not go together. So season 2 right now is the best. Season 3 second best, and then Sopranos season 1 is third. Season 3 is like the last season where it's mostly happy, and there in every season there's like disturbing storylines and sad, just killings, and everything. But this is the last season because Junior, he's not demented yet. Season 4, he starts to become that. And he's still under house arrest. He's been under house arrest after the end of season 1. So yeah, that and then Livia, they do the whole I forgot to mention her. She was Tony's mother. I did mention her, but I didn't go into detail. She's just an evil bat. She's an evil fucking witch, and Tony becomes just like her later on. But yeah, in real life, she got sick, or, well, maybe she didn't get sick, but she died. I don't know what for. You can see in season 2, she got skinny. You could tell she looked not as good as she did before. Like season 1, she was still, she wasn't fat, but she had a lot more skin on her, But yeah, she died in real life, so that they had to revolve the show around that instead of what they were originally going to do, which I'm kind of glad happened, not because she died, but just because the storyline that happened. I would have liked to have seen it, just because I've seen the show 4 times already, and maybe I want to see something different. But I don't. But if it would be good to see what else could have happened, and that's the whole storyline would have revolved around the stolen airline tickets and Livia testifying. I for sure think she would have testified against Tony. There would be no doubt in my mind that she would have. But yeah. Oh yeah, in season 2 about Puss becoming being the rat fully with Skip Lispari, or whatever the fuck his name is, the FBI agent, and getting killed by Tony, Paulie, and Silvio. That's the other storyline in it. Forgot about that. Which is really good. But season 3, they got the funeral, the first episode. They get over with. That is probably one of my favorite episodes, with the FBI trying to bug Tony's house. There's just so much shit going on. It reminds me of the Goodfellas scene where he's being followed by the helicopters and shit. He's got to do all this fucking other shit. He's got to like stir the tomatoes and go to the store, drop guns off at Jimmy's house, and then go to Beansy's house for the guns because Jimmy didn't want them. But that's not his name in the movie. Beansy is different Beansy in Goodfellas. But yeah, season 3, Carmela, you start to get a more storyline of how Carmela is in this bad relationship with Tony. It doesn't escalate until season 4, of course. But she starts to, I wouldn't say she starts to realize, because I'm sure she already knew, but she goes to that that psychiatrist, and it is one of the most brutal scenes in the whole show where she is like told straight up to leave Tony, and she's crying her eyes out and shit. Because the psychiatrist knows he's a monster. He's a mobster, and he's just evil. So leave him. You know, it's not that easy though when you're Carmela Soprano, because you have all these nice things, even though you're like getting manipulated. It's still hard to leave. Now, Carmela is not innocent whatsoever, but Tony is definitely more evil than she is. But Carmela is not far behind. She allows it to happen. But yeah. And then the extramarital affairs keep on going on. Gloria is the best guma in the whole fucking show. I mean, she is just drop dead gorgeous, but she is psycho as a fucking Norman Bates, dude. She's even worse than him. I mean, it is bad what they turn into. But the whole scene where they go to the zoo and they're fucking while they're looking at animals while there's people there. It's like insanity. That is one of my favorite storylines in the whole show with Gloria. And then you know, she starts to go crazy. Pine Barrens happens, the most funniest episode in all of television. If you want to get into The Sopranos and you're not sure if you want to start, watch Pine Barrens. You can start there. You don't have to know anything about the show to even like go to start watching it. You could just watch that and get a good idea of what the show is going to be. It is the funniest shit ever, with the lines of Paulie saying, "You're never going to believe this. He was a Czechoslovakian." Or I didn't. All right. You're never gonna believe this. He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. See, even messing up is funny. He was an interior decorator. He only said that because Tony said something. He killed Chechen rebels or something. That's all. He was part of the Interior Ministry, and that's what Paulie got from it. Because the whole storyline from that show is the phone is just out of service, or there's no connection, and it keeps on breaking up and shit. But yeah, that is top 5 funniest shit. I mean, there's so much funny moments in the show that is up there, and it gets replayed a lot, like with the funniest moments if you go on compilations on YouTube, but it is well worth it. I mean, it is just some of the funniest shit you'll ever see. But another part of that episode is with Gloria, like I was saying. She throws a steak at him, and he realizes that she is really crazy. I mean, she gave signs before, but now you just know for sure. But yeah, he makes Patsy, another great character, makes Patsy go threaten her with a gun on a Mercedes-Benz test drive, and says, "You're gonna be scraping nipples off these fine leather seats." Very intimidating. Kind of funny how the word nipples is in there, but other than that, it is an intimidating scene. But yeah, that's a great scene. Gloria definitely gets terrified. She wanted Tony to kill him, but if Patsy was gonna kill, or she wanted Tony to kill her. I said him. Wanted to kill her, but when Patsy's gonna do it, she won't be satisfied with it. She like was begging Tony to kill her. That's how bad she got. But yeah, Tony realized that, and only realized the only way that he can get away from this broad was fucking if you make someone else threaten her. And he got Patsy, and he did a good job at it. All right, now we're gonna go to season 4. This is tough to say. I'm just gonna say it's great, but it is close to being just fucking incredible. Season 4, the only reason why I have it down here and it's not up there is just because not a lot happens. There definitely is, like, well, compared to other seasons, but it's just like a building block season to what to what's going to come next and what built up before it. You know, it's just like a whole culmination of what has just happened. And then, yeah. Because the last episode, Whitecaps, where Tony and Carmela get a divorce and they have that huge ass fight that goes on for a long time, that is just like one of the best episodes ever. And the acting was just incredible in that. But there's a lot of storylines in this season, like Furio, one of the greatest characters in the show. He falls in love with Carmela. Carmela falls in love with her, or falls in love with him. Yeah, she basically gets disinterested in Tony, and falls in love with him and wants to get a divorce. Well, she doesn't want to get a divorce from the beginning, but she definitely feels less interested in Tony. Chris's drug problem gets really out of control, and they had that intervention, one of the best scenes in the whole entire show. I mean, it is just so funny. And then Ralphie, he was in season 3 too. He was definitely more evil. Well, yeah, in season 3, there's 2 episodes in that whole season where it's just completely like disturbing. The Melfi RAPE scene, and Ralphie killing Tracy because he beat her to death. Those are some fucked up scenes. But yeah. But season 4, Ralphie he kind of matures a little bit, and because his son has a chance of dying, so he realizes what it's like to lose somebody, basically. And that's another storyline in season 3. I might not be able to hit on everything because I don't know how long this is going to go on for. But where Jackie Jr., the old mob boss's son, gets together with Meadow and he becomes a fuck up and gets killed. That's another storyline, which is really good. But Jackie Jr., you hate that character because he's just so fucking stupid. But a great acting. But season 4, Ralphie and Tony, they buy a horse together, and the horse becomes close to Tony like it's his own pet. And Ralphie kills him. I don't care what people say. That's just what happened. David Chase even admitted it, I think, recently. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure most people thought that anyway. But yeah, he killed the horse just to get out money for his son, which, I mean, I could see why you would do that. It's not like the end of the world to do that, but Tony is just so invested in this horse and loves him like he's a fucking son. So for that, he kills Ralphie. Ralphie, whatever. But basically, it's a metaphor for, he says, she was a beautiful, innocent creature. What'd she ever do to you? That was basically revenge for what he did to Tracy in season 3, beating her to death. And yeah, I thought that was great what they did there. But yeah, basically it's just falling out between Tony and Carmela. Tony wasn't falling out with her, but Carmela definitely was. And ends with just a huge fight. And I dread it every time it comes because I just don't want to see them fight, because you've seen them for 3 seasons together now, almost 4 full seasons, basically 4 full seasons, where they were just happily married, basically. I mean, they weren't happily married. She knew about the extramarital affairs, but she just turned a blind eye until Irina called and was like, "Hey, yo, I fucked your husband and my bitch, my fucking sister, with one leg, fucked them too." But she didn't sound like that. She was very much jealous because he beat up Zellman, Assemblyman Zellman, which that would have saved a whole lot of trouble if he didn't do that. That just caused all the problems. That made Zellman not perform like a man. Basically had a heroin addiction like Christopher, where he couldn't perform like a man with Adriana. Basically, that happened without doing heroin. But yeah, season 4 is just great. And then the only episode that's like it's iffy about people is Christopher. And when I first started watching it, I thought it was gonna be about Christopher Moltisanti because it's called Christopher, but it was about Christopher Columbus. It's just a very political episode. It's yeah, it kind of fits in weird. But and then Bobby Bacala's wife dies in a car accident, and Janice starts going over there to, just try to get in his pants, basically. And it works out. They get married and have kids. You'll see. But yeah, that was a little cringy at points. And AJ is just like, so he's not a good person this season. But yeah, it's it's definitely a weird season. But there's still enough that happens to where it will never be just good. It has to be great. And with the culmination at the end of the season, with the divorce, separation, it makes it great. Season 5. Oh boy, where are we going to put this one? We're going to have to put it past season 2. So far, the greatest season in the whole show. The first time I watched season 5, I thought it was one of the worst seasons, but the more I watch it, I grow to love it so much. The war between New York inside itself, they fucking go crazy. Like little Carmine and shit. Johnny Sack hates them. There's a whole like they kill off a bunch of characters that just to send a message. And then they introduced Tony Blendetto, which I could see why someone wouldn't like it first. But once you start watching, like I said, it just becomes better. And it's just like a perfect character to add. He causes so many problems for Tony. And he doesn't want to kill him because he felt bad for not being at the night that he was arrested and originally was in prison for, because he had a panic attack and he just felt guilt. And he definitely would have had him killed if he wasn't related and didn't have that kind of guilt in the back of his mind. He probably would have been killed right away. But since it was his cousin and he felt guilty, he kept him alive until the last episode, right? Or the second to last. I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, Tony Blendetto causes so many problems. Like, you could have got away with it if he just killed Joey Peeps. Like, Joey Peeps was, he was close to Johnny Sack, but he wasn't related in any way, so it wouldn't have been a problem where he would have died. Maybe if he wasn't related to Tony, he probably would have died. But it was solvable. You were able to fix it. But once he killed fucking Phil Leotardo's brother Billy, that's when it just went straight downhill, because Phil never trusted Tony after that. He felt a disdain towards him the rest of the fucking time. And this is just the first season where there's like a more darker tone to it. And it's different than every other season. And it doesn't even look the same. Like, you could tell when there's a season 5 clip compared to any other season. It just has a different tone to it. But yeah, Phil Leotardo comes in this season. He's not a problem until Tony's brother, or Tony's cousin, Animal Blendetto, can't even say his fucking name, kills Billy, and Phil gets just very upset and petty about everything, which I don't blame him for. I mean, that's his fucking brother. I'm surprised he even held his tongue that much. I don't blame Phil for what he did. Like, yes, he overreacted sometimes, but for that reason, like, just imagine if someone you knew's cousin killed your brother. Even, I mean, yeah, you're not gonna be the mafia, but still, just think about that. No matter what, that's fucked up. But yeah, Johnny Sack, he becomes boss after Carmine dies. You could tell Carmine was holding the fucking family together, because after he dies, it just goes downhill for that whole New York family. Carmine was all about business. He was gonna kill Johnny Sack. He told Tony to kill Johnny Sack in season 4 because the weight remark got out of hand, and he just saw that Johnny was just caring too much emotionally, and he didn't see the big picture. He wanted to kill Ralphie, even though they brought in millions of dollars. But yeah, I mean, who would want to kill Ralphie? But great character, great fucking character, so entertaining every time you see him on screen. But yeah, he dies in the first episode, Carmine, and then yeah, Johnny Sack takes over. Little Carmine, he wanted to take over too at that time. But yeah, there's just so much shit. Jack Masserone, he's a rat. Christopher finds out Adriana and Tony were driving out to go get cocaine, and there's a whole scene, a whole episode. Probably one of the most suspenseful moments in the whole show is when Tony and Adriana going out for cocaine, and they get into a car accident, and she hurts her neck in their hospital. She's in the hospital. Tony gets away without a scratch, basically, and Christopher thinks that Tony was cheating, or Adriana was cheating on him, which very very reasonable to think so because honestly, I mean it's common sense. So not honestly, you should know this. Tony was going to bang Adriana that night. It was just no doubt about it. It's just that Phil came in while they were about to do that. I think she was about to give him a blowjob. Honestly, like I don't know if it was going to be for information or what, but it was going to be something. Um, but yeah, luckily Phil came in and saved that from happening because Tony wanted to. He didn't care. He says he cares about Christopher, but after that, I mean, not at all. I mean, when there's pussy in front of him, he just does not care what the hell who's around. It's just he's gonna get it. He didn't get that, and he says to Melfi that he wishes he would have gotten it. Which I mean, at least he would have got the satisfaction of that, but he does not need satisfaction. He's got so much in his whole life. I think that's the reason why he's so evil, because he's just had so much good luck in his life that if he doesn't get just the slightest bit of it, he just goes crazy. But yeah, Christopher, he gets really jealous, and their whole relationship gets strained from there because up until that point, it's been a healthy, father son duo basically the whole time. But yeah, and then Adriana's been a rat since season 4. I think the end of season 3 she became a rat. Or the detective came and yeah, I forgot if it was the end of season 3 or beginning of season 4, around there. But it comes to an end. She tells Chris about it, that she's been talking to the FBI, and you want Chris so bad to go with her to move on, but he chooses Tony after the cheating. Even though it wasn't really cheating, it was still cheating. Basically, it was in his mind. Oh yeah, but the suspenseful scene before I go on to that is when Chris shows up to the Bada Bing with the gun after he's been drinking, because he's been sober this whole time since he went to rehab in season 4. But he drank like a whole fucking bottle basically, and came to the Bada Bing with a gun, and they brought him out to like the cornfields or meadowlands, whatever the fuck, I don't know. And basically he was ready to die there. He said, "You'll just have to watch it for yourself." Like the whole scene had me on the edge of my seat, and I just could not believe it. That was one of the best episodes ever. I think it was Irregular Around the Margins. That was the episode of it. It's one of the best episodes in the whole entire show. It just gets you. It's just insanity. But yeah, after that, Adriana admits she's a rat. Chris wants to go with her, but then goes out and decides last minute that he would choose Tony because he saw this American family just in a shit car, looking like a poor family, that was going to be his future So he chose money over the love of his life, and it just backfires on him. It's sad. But I don't feel bad for him just because he's a bad person and he did that shit. But yeah, season 5, a lot of shit happens. It gets very dark in the season. Yeah. Season 6A, probably the least best in the whole entire show. The reason for this is because the whole opening to it. Members only, one of the best episodes in the whole entire show. Eugene Pontecorvo commits suicide. That the intro to the season is just the best thing ever. Like with the with whatever they used, I forgot the guy's name, the narration they used for it, but they put it over a beat, not a beat. I think it was actually in the book. But yeah, that was it. Just this is when the show starts doing a lot of metaphorical and symbolic shit that you have to pay attention to for the ending to really make sense. But yeah, they basically, why the season is at the end is because when Tony's in the hospital, that just goes on for way too long for me. Like I love it. I still enjoy it. I still love the coma dream he had. I think it's one of the most beautiful thing at the end where he's got his briefcase and Tony Blundetto's there, and he's like, "You got to let go." I love that whole sequence, but up until that point, there was a whole thing with like monks being Kevin Finnerty. It just went on way too long. And even when he got out of the hospital, there's just so much time that is paid attention to that, and he just feels like shit. He's sick. It just goes on for way too long. But after that is when it really starts to get good in that season. And because there's a whole storyline about Vito. Like in season 5, you find out he's gay. He's sucking a dick at the security guard. Very stupid decision to do at your job. And yeah, he basically travels to New Hampshire. His car breaks down, and he has to walk to this hotel, and they let him stay there. And you're rooting for Vito at this point because he has a chance to get away. Even though he's got a wife and kids at home, he has a chance to get away. But yeah, it is. He basically he feels he can't be a normal human being. Like he's doing a normal job, and he thinks a lot more time passed than actually did, and he just didn't, and he missed the lifestyle. Even though he was happy with Johnny Cakes, and those Johnny Cakes looked pretty fucking good. The pancakes and sausages, dude. Every time I see those, every time I rewatch it, I'm just like, oh my god, I want to eat those so bad. But yeah, he could have been happy. He was in a nice place that suited him, but he loved the lifestyle more. And Phil Leotardo was fed up with Vito. He could not stand that someone could be gay in the family, even though it was very clear that he came out of the closet literally when he killed him. And he definitely had some gay things that happened to him. Like in prison, he probably got fucked by a bunch of dudes, and or he had to suck some cock. I don't know, but he got basically it was a metaphor for being disgusted by himself, and he wanted to put his anger out towards someone that actually felt that way. But yeah, so you almost feel bad for Phil for that reason, but not at all for what he did. He was so persistent on killing Vito. But yeah, that was one of the main storylines. Christopher's relationship with Tony gets bad still. It's not bad yet, but it's getting there. And then Christopher finds a new woman, Kelly. They have a baby. I think that's actually in the last season where they have the baby. But yeah, a lot of shit happens. Kaisha is probably one of the dirtiest episodes in the whole show. It is like there's so much sex, and it just seems so dirty. It's a good ending though, because Phil and Tony, they have a kind of a reconciliation, and they meet. They meet together on a human level, you know. And then don't forget the meeting of the minds that Carmine draws up. Oh my god, one of the most funniest scenes of the whole entire show, where they're finally ready to make peace, and then they talk about what they did to each other that was wrong. Coco, or not Coco, Dom, whatever, and then they said that whatever restaurant it was, the something room, and then your brother Billy, whatever happened there. And then Phil's like, whatever happened there? The shooting. Carmine says, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Whatever happened there? God rest his soul, huh? And he looks at Tony, and Tony's just like, why the fuck would you say that? There's a theory out there that Carmine was actually really smart, which could be true. I don't know. He definitely was outsmarted everybody and not dying. But the things Carmine says in the show, Little Carmine, the things that he says, you could tell that he's like trying to be smart, but he's not. But he's still smart with other things. Like he said something about visiting Versailles when it's not that Versailles. Yeah, so there's a lot of things he pronounced wrong. And yeah, so he was It's hard to say if he was really smart or not. I think it was 50-50. He's a dumbass, but he's got common sense. That's my opinion. That's all you need in this world. You don't need to be smart. You just need to know how the world works. But yeah, I'll put that there. Great season, but if I had to not take any season with me on a deserted island, it would be that one. But still amazing. All right, now the last fucking season. 6B. Where are we going to put this? Season 5. Is it better than season 2? Ooh. I don't know. It is just like the most well shot season ever. Most well directed. I'm going to put it above season 2, I think. No, I'm going to put it, honestly, I don't know. I don't know where to put it. I don't know where to put it. I love this season so much, but it's so depressing. It is like the most depressing season ever for anything, because everything just goes downhill. It seems like once Tony gets in that fight with Bobby, it just everything just dies. He makes Bobby go out to kill that one guy for a hit for just a random person that they would never talk to again. That was just so evil. Tony becomes so evil in this season. Yeah, I think that's actually a good spot for it right there. But yeah, this is the season where Tony kills Christopher out of the blue. Like, I knew that Christopher was going to die before watching this. I got it spoiled to me. I just didn't know where. I thought it would be like near the end or the end, you know? But it was like 4 or 5, I think, yeah, 4 episodes into 6B. And it just totally took me by surprise. And the way he killed him, he felt no remorse for it, Tony. The dream he has where he goes to Melfi's office and says how he feels, like, that is probably one of the best scenes in the whole entire show. I haven't been able to tell anybody this, but I'm fucking relieved. Like, I love that, even though it's evil. Like, I love it in a way that is just so dark, you know. But yeah, every episode in this season is just really good. It just all leads up. AJ gets really depressed from Blanca leaving him. He commits suicide, and there's definitely a human moment for Tony when he goes to save his son. I mean, but that's your son though, so it kind of gets canceled out, because I'm sure if it was someone else, I don't know if Tony would have saved him or not. But he did love his family. That's the one thing Tony truly did love. That and animals. Well, not really animals, because he dumped the asbestos where the ducks were at. And the ducks were a big prevalent thing in the first season. You know that if you watched it. If you're this far, you probably have already seen the show. I don't know. I wouldn't want to watch this tier list if I've never seen it. So, but yeah. A lot of people die. Like the whole crew, the family, glorified crew, they're basically all gone, and there's just a huge war between New York and New Jersey. Phil is fed up with all the shit that he's been putting up with, and it just gets out of control. And they kill Bobby and Blue Comet. Blue Comet is the penultimate episode in the whole entire show, and it leads up to Made in America, where honestly, top 3 episode of all time, I'd have to say. I don't know if it'd be number 1, just because there's so many episodes that are so good out there. But I mean, the finale doesn't always mean it has to be the best episode ever. But the ending to the show is the most brilliant thing that has ever been on any TV or movie. It is so amazing. And there's people out there that think it's a cop-out, which is just hilarious to me how stupid these people are. No offense to Breaking Bad fans, but those are mostly the people who do it, because they see it as, because Breaking Bad, they kill Walter White dies. So there's a conclusion to it. But in the end of Sopranos, there's no conclusion. Like, I mean, the conclusion, it ends, but you don't know if Tony dies. But there is literally so much shit that happens in season 6A to 6B where it would point to that. There's a whole scene in the first episode of 6B where Bobby is talking about dying, and he's like, "You probably don't hear when it happens, right?" And then Silvio, think it's 6A, maybe it is 6B, where he's with the hair dude Torchiano. He doesn't even know he got shot until like a couple seconds later, where he realizes the situation. Um, it cuts to black for a reason. Tony Soprano's him as a character was over. Like there was nothing that was gonna save him. He was dead either way, whether he was going to be alive or not. Like if he went to prison, Carlo was going to testify against him. He would have been in prison for sure. His whole storyline and the whole show was just done there. There needed to be no more explanation. It was over. If it satisfies you to see him get blood and guts drawn all over the place in the restaurant where he was with his family, then good for you. But then you would know what would happen to him. There'd be no interest in talking about the show to this day, 17 years later. This is the only show in the whole entire world where people still talk about it. Like, I mean, not still talk about the ending. Breaking Bad ending, nobody talks about because it was definitive. You know everything about it, so there's no point to even discuss it. You're just like, okay, it was a great show, but what happened? You don't have to say that kind of shit. But with Sopranos, if you would have done it like Breaking Bad did it, you'd be like, Sopranos was a great show. Was it best of all time? I don't know. It probably was, but there's other shows that are still great. But with the ending to Sopranos, that's what puts it over the top. And some people, that brings it down for people, which, I mean, when people think that, then I think they have down, I'm not going to go into it. But you got to realize that there are so many analysis videos on the internet and so many pieces you can put together just by watching it that you'll see why the ending to The Sopranos is the most brilliant thing to ever come to the screen. It is just it is poetic as fuck. But yeah, there's just so much shit that leads up to it, and you could put it together yourself. Whether he died or not, it doesn't matter. It was the end of Tony Soprano. You guys understand what I'm saying? It was the end of that person as a whole entire show. He was done. Tony was done for. But yeah, great season. It might be above season 2. It might be number 1. It really the first 3 can either go either way any day of the week. Season 3 could definitely be number 1 too. But these are definitive down here. These are definitely 4, 5, 6. I would say I don't think that would change those. But yeah, or 5, 6, 7. Excuse me. But yeah, these 4, they're definitely interchangeable. Depends how I'm feeling. The last season is definitely the most symbolic, and that's why it could be number 1. But season 2 is still bright. There's some great moments in it, and just great characters by Richard Preel. Season 5, there's just so much shit. It's like the start of the end for Tony and his whole New Jersey family. And season 3 is just like the last great season you could enjoy without having to worry about Tony's fate, Carmela's fate, Christopher's fate. You don't have to worry about any of that, and that's why season 3 is a really good season. But yeah, that's how I feel about The Sopranos. And if you haven't watched it for some reason up until this point, go watch it. Okay, I'm serious. Go fucking watch it. I'll give you my HBO Max password if you need it. But yeah, that was my rankings on it. I hope you enjoyed. It was fun to do. I'm gonna go eat this pizza. I gotta go.